Hello. Welcome. This is RHJunior, RHJunior Reality Check, coming to you live on the interwebs, bringing you spleen squeeze-ins, something that allegedly passes for a live stream broadcast about art, science, religion, politics, philosophy, vague random ramblings by a chronically depressed trailer trash. How y'all doing? Okay. Waiting for it, waiting for it, waiting for it. Booting it up, booting it up, booting it up. Here we go. Okay. Yesterday did not go as well as I'd hoped. Okay, I have over three. Yeah, let's see here. I have 71 uh Patreon uh donors. Those people are great. Um, it turns out though that approximately 4 or 5, $115 total in Patreon transactions are simply not going through. Whoever made the pledges, uh, apparently they well, I don't know I don't know, they just fudged out on it. They're not, the transaction is supposed to go through and it doesn't. And apparently they the I don't know, the information lapsed or something. And well, basically it means is that I should be taking in out $300 every month, and I only take in two in pledges. Uh, Not a good thing right now. It's not a good thing ever, but if you if you can't make a donation, or you don't want to make a donation, well, I get that. That's fine by me. Just cancel it out. They have features for that, and let me know. I'm canceling my pledge for now, so on and so forth, etc. And just keep me in the loop. I don't want to find. It's kind of inconvenient to find out that somebody is not going to fulfill a pledge when the Patreon system tries to make the withdrawal and it gets bounced. That's a bad time to find out, really. Maybe that and maybe that several there's a lot of possibilities. They might have thought that the pledge was a one-time thing and they forgot, or their bank account changed, or it could have been any number of things. But it's still not good news for me at the moment. I'm sending my landlord the $200 that I have. My bank accounts have been locked, apparently. I've got to call. I meant to call the bank today. I meant to call the doctor today, and I didn't get to either. And now I have to go looking for the receipt, the address. It's just really not. Uh, okay, it's been going downhill for a bit, and uh, start off with my. There's one guy who used to make $100 pledge every month, and he's canceled that as well. He has reasons for that. And I basically over the past 30 to 60 days, I've lost $200. I've effectively lost $200 in income, and just yeah, you get the picture. It kind of sucks. Trying to find some paperwork here. Uh, okay, got two people in the audience. Would y'all say hey? Would y'all say hey? Would y'all say hey ho? Hey, hi, ho, hey, hey, ho, hey, hey, hoy, hey, hoy. We were supposed to get drenched today. We were supposed to get drenched. We were supposed to get 100% chance of rain. Dun dun dun. And and nothing. It's been we had some rain early in the morning, a little bit of rain in the middle of the night, on and off. But after that, nothing. Nothing. For somebody who likes rain, that's kind of a disappointment. I'm a pluviophile. Pluviophile. Pluvio file. I means I like rain. I like rain. I love rain. I love rainy nights. I love rainy days. I love thunderstorms. I don't like standing out in them. Nobody does. Unless it's been a nice hot summer day. You stand out there. But so being promised a thunderstorm and getting a cloudless sky is a bummer for me. I don't like clear blue sky. I don't. Maybe it's just me. I've often wondered why. A cloudless sky does not make me happy. It looks so blank. It looks so empty. It looks so just bleak to me. Now, of course, every now and then my parents. I really don't know what parents think these days. I really don't know. Really don't know what parent. I don't know what some people think. They think that if they throw a kid outside, go out and have some fun in the sun. But you're supposed to sit out there in the grass like you're a potted plant. Uh, Go out inside and play. Nothing out there. My parents, their idea of a park is a big grassy area with a fence around it. And they take you out there, oh, go and play and have fun. There was no, there was. I remember time they'd take us out to these places. No shade. There's no playground equipment. Nothing. Just a field. Why'd you go play with those children? You don't know them from Adam, and you don't want to do whatever the heck it is they're doing. But I hated it. It's sort of fixated on that after that one particular time. Went out there. It was an open field, just an open field with a fence around it. There was no, there was no water fountain. There was no bathroom. That made things real fun for a little guy with a bladder the size of an acorn. There were no trees. There was no shade. Isn't this fun, kids? Yeah, if you're a grazing animal. I see a blank sky. I see a clear blue sky, and that says to me nothing is going to happen. And that's just not for me. I'm really not happy right now. This is what I deserve. This is what I deserve. I've become less and less productive over the years, and it's costing me. People, I mean, I don't think people should, no obligation to keep somebody rolling who doesn't produce. Some days you just freaking lot rent signature. I go out of my way to save a little piece of paper that has the address and everything of the landlord and everything. I just stock it away, keep it safe, and it promptly gets lost. Of course. Okay. Oh wait, I know where it is. I know where it is. Just a second here. I'm trying to write out a partial payment for my lot rent this month. It's only by the divine grace of God that I haven't been evicted. You know that? It really is. Of course, if they evicted me, they'd have to do something with my trailer, and I don't think that they can even afford to have it hauled away. It makes sense. They'd much rather have somebody indebted to them living on the property than just having something sitting there, just empty space. But, okay, now, I know there's two people watching. Talk, please. Pretty please. Empty space. Come on, guys. Don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me hanging here. Let me turn on the rainy tin shack. Don't know why it didn't work before. Don't know. It's working. No, it's completely mystery. My counsel, like I meant to, well, fully on it. I've already said that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'm not holding together anymore. I'm not. Let's see. Where are those envelopes? Empty, blank envelope. Blank envelope. Blank. Ah, there we go. Now, one of the big questions of life. Here's a thought for you. When does academic knowledge and common sense? When does academic knowledge end and common sense begin? This is a random thought for you, because I've been chewing over some pet peeves I've got about some of the writing I've seen. Some of the issues are a matter of cognitive dissonance, a matter of reasoning or the absence thereof. When you're talking socio-political issues, most of the people that write, you know, from a leftist perspective, write up these socialist utopias, and they had, it's because they do not think through the consequences of their philosophies to their full extent. This is the reason Bernie Sanders has people who will vote for him, because he all he has to do is promise to give them all sorts of free stuff, and that's it. They don't stop to ask themselves, where is all the money for this crap supposed to come from? And what will it do? How much is this all going to cost? Who's going to pay for it? And what is it going to do to the rest of the country? Just for starters. But nobody's going. Nobody's exercising their cognitive capacities beyond the point of Bernie Sanders free stuff. However, there are other things that these are a matter of uh, not knowing basic facts, basic mathematics, basic laws of physics, basic chemistry, uh, you know, lessons about the material world that you were supposed to have been taught in grade school. If I had a dime for every person who was baffled about how a hollow tree could still be alive, I'd be a rich man. Well, maybe not, but I'd have a pocket full of change for sure. This is stuff that they taught. I'm not kidding. This is stuff that I was taught in grade school. This is stuff that you were supposed to have been taught. And we got kids just so stupid. No, let's say it, ignorant. They're ignorant because they don't know. They're stupid because they don't care that they don't know. Oh, who cares about that? I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I cared about getting things wrong. I cared, and it didn't matter what the facts were that were being questioned. It's the point was is that I hated uh, being wrong. I hated finding out. I wanted to know the truth. I mean, you know, uh, when I learned that the world was round, I was not only astounded because I was a little squirt, but I was glad to know of it. Because I could take that, I could take the false information, throw it out, and replace it with the correct. I hated being incorrect about things, and I wanted to know the truth. The apathy of people about basic facts about the world around them is ghastly to me. I'm sort of drifting off topic. Now, getting back to some of the fundamental mistakes I see in writing over and over and over and over again. We're not, we're not just talking moral and ethical and rational. We're talking basic scientific facts. I mean, I recently read a story, a fan fiction where the protagonist, it was a pretty poor fan fiction. It basically consists of somebody uh, retelling a play-by-play of the entire what's the name with Saints Aaron uh, Metroid. Basically, it consisted of retelling the entire storyline of the Metroid franchise with uh, Spike the Dragon inserted into it, and it was almost exactly the same. And it was very dull story, really was. It could have been summed up with having a dragon with you makes it easier. Yeah. But one of the recurring parts was that it was supposed to be that Samus Aran and Spike grew up and they walked around. For them, a comfortable environment was 40 G's. 40 G's. And they had to wear special armor in order to, from walking around breaking things in irregular gravity. Uh, I don't care if it's the author. I don't care if it's the original franchise's canon. Or if it's something that the writer of the fanfiction came up with. Either way, it's stupid, and the fanfiction writer should have spotted it. Let me put it this way: they have the story goes on and talking about how they're living on a planet with 20 Gs, 30 Gs, 40 Gs, and doing all these missions. The surface of the sun has a gravitational pull of 28 Gs. This is the gravitational pressure at which fusion starts. I pointed this out to the right. You need to rein this in a little bit. I mean, having them raising, like 2, 3, or 4, uh, uh, you know, 4 times Earth's gravity is actually believable, or at least within the realm of the feasible. But 40 G's, 30 G's, 40 G's, no, it's awful. It's preposterous. It's terrible, bad writing. And he's like, oh well, whatever, and just dismissing everything. Oh well, you didn't want to hear it. Your story's crap anyway, fella. Just trying to spare you some humiliation there. But no, not gonna listen to me. Of course not. Nothing to go out in the mail. And just howling ignorance. And they write about things that should be basic knowledge for any grade schooler and get it dead wrong. And it drives me crazy. And their blasé attitude towards being found out, having it pointed out to them, it just drives me wild. Because I'm like, I hated getting stuff wrong, and I still do. And there's nothing, I find it satisfying to find out a mistake, get it corrected. These people run the opposite direction. They hate being told that they're wrong, and they will fight tooth and nail to keep from, to keep their state of denial. You know, and they'll pretend it's not, it's not important, right? You know, getting the little if you can't get expend the energy to get the little stuff correct, put your pen down, get away from your keyboard, just stay away from writing. Another story. One of the features. I forget what the original story was, but basically, the theme was is that there was one story a while back. The author, it was Last Pony on Earth. The idea was is that magic was about to ignite in our galaxy, in our universe, and the thing of it was is that humanity was not adapted to it. That it would French fry any human being. So, in order to save the human, in the next universe over, uh, Celestia Luna and he's been watching this, and they realized what was going to happen. And so, first they cast a massive spell to try and save the people of Earth from being destroyed. Uh, it transformed, they transformed every human being into an equestrian. But they realized that just doing that wasn't enough because 7 billion people suddenly transforming like that, it would have been mass chaos all over the world. And they still, the human race still would have nearly all died. So, in order to ease the burden, they cast they scattered humanity through the timeline. The transformed humanity, they sent them into the future, and over the next 1,000 years, people are going to start popping. It's in over thousands of years, people would reappear, popping back out of time space into the real world, and that way they wouldn't have this that the effect would be spread out over thousands of years. And naturally, there's only a remnant, a few thousand, a few million, a few thousand ponies left on Earth who can who are supposed to a few million maybe all over the world, that they are to rebuild and rebuild civilization and uh, repair it, and be so that it is ready for when the rest of humanity starts reappearing. The kicker is that after the premise, no attention whatsoever was paid to basic common sense. The one of the recent spin-off stories. It's 3,000 years in the future, and they are still barely at the aeronautics is still barely at the level of uh, 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 one engine planes, prop planes back in the like World War I era. And the story is about how they have to deal with this jumbo jet reappearing in the skies over the world, and you flat out just want to just pummel them because it's 3,000 years. We went, look, human beings. Once we were given a free civilization, uh, representative government, the United States. That's what I'm talking about. We went from the ox and cart, and we went from wooden boats, the ox and cart. Uh, to, we went from there to the space shuttle in less than 200 years. All it took was giving humanity a place to live and resources and a free civilization, and we've thrived. Western civilization. Hello, thank you, goodbye. And we're supposed to be these creatures. They not only they have all the pre-made infrastructure of humanity lying there fallow for them to salvage. They have uh, the archived knowledge of humanity, the technology, the engineering, the science. I mean, they literally have every library on Earth as their resource. They have, and on top of that, they have magic. Yet it takes them 3,000 years to reach a level that that humanity, with only a fraction of the benefits they had, reached in 200. And I'm like, come on, 3,000 years. And then you had the problems with these stories is that authors have absolutely no idea. Now, I'll be honest. I mean, I was not always, not very well informed about this, but it at least occurred to me to wonder. I don't know if you've ever seen it. They're called the world after humanity. It's an entire series of uh, 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 science shows. It analyzed what would happen to our world if every human being was disappeared. Like in all these science fiction stories, and they examined it literally, seriously, and basically put, we have no idea uh, just how brittle, how rapidly our infrastructure would collapse into soil. Now, they estimated it. The average skyscraper would last about 100 years. It would be they'd be an uninhabitable ruin by 50 years, and the last of them would have collapsed within, you know, the major collapses would have started in about a century, because just because of how they're built. It takes constant effort and maintenance to keep those skyscrapers in livable shape. Just water seeping in through a broken window and getting down into the concrete. They analyze from end to end. Uh, that's one of the big things about uh, Wall E. In any realistic scenario, Wall E would not still be piling up garbage 500 years later. He would be rolling around, even with the pollution and everything that had, uh, unbreathable air and all that. The pollutants would have broken down. All the rubbish he's rolling around in would have decomposed, rusted, rotted. There would be nothing left but dirt. The steel beams would have rusted away. The concrete would have crumbled to gravel. And if by some miracle that Wall-E was still in working order in 500 years later, the world would have already recuperated. All the poisons and litter and pollutants would have rotted away uh, back to the soil, and that little plant that was so important to the whole plot of the movie would have already been growing, over rolling hills as far as the eye could see. But that didn't make a good environmental horror story. So, and then there's so many stories that feature the Prime Directive. They have one fan fiction, it's a little one shot where Twilight Sparkle brings back a smartphone from the human world, and she and Sunset Shimmer get in a fight over it because Sunset, oh, they will destroy our civilization. I hate that. I hate that. I hate that trope. I hate it with a fervent passion. You know why? Because it is the most bigoted, arrogant, racist belief, and people are out there setting international policy based on it. In the patronizing belief that those poor little brown people, they just can't handle our wonderful, enlightened, progressive scientific technology as well as we can. We should keep them on a reserve and let them like monkeys in a cage because they just couldn't handle the progress. What the reality is. The reality is that we know introducing advanced technology to primitive societies does. It makes them leap over decades, if not centuries, of trial and error, and lets them avoid the mistakes we made. Uh, for instance, the introduction of the diesel engine and the internal combustion engine to third world countries has meant that they have been able to skip over the entire industrial revolution era of coal and all the pollution and all the health problems and all the things that brought with it. Pollution is bad. Now imagine how it would look if every third world country was burning coal to run the infrastructure they have. The introduction of the cell phone, in particular, has enabled them to avoid It's allowed them to skip over the telegraph, the telephone, miles, and they don't have to lay out miles and miles and miles of copper telephone lines and millions of telephone poles and all the resources that would have gone into that. They've managed to skip over it entirely. Now all they need is some phone towers, and they're ready to roll. We are all equally benighted. We all enter the world as naked, ignorant savages. And we have to be gifted with the 21st century technology and culture the same as anybody else. It has to be gifted to us by somebody that already has. But again and again, you see, oh, we can't let our modern, advanced, enlightened technology into the room because it would result in calamity and catastrophe and destruction. Look, any new knowledge is going to bring with it problems. That's the nature of the world. That's the nature of life. Doo-doo happens. But the benefits of bringing 21st century knowledge to a backwards culture outstrips any of the negative consequences. The positives outstrip the negatives by light years. But vast portions of our society are. I hate this trope because this is what motivates these people. There are people out there actively obstructing missionaries from going out into the field because they don't want the missionaries corrupting those nice little primitive brown people with modern society, and especially not with Christianity. Don't want that. Oh! But many of them aren't motivated by the fear that we'll give them Jesus cooties, as the fact that they're scared that we'll give them modern medicine and technology and the ability to progress beyond the level of being a diorama in a nature museum. Everybody talks about the imperialism of Western civilization. How horrible. Oh, what we did to the Indians. Oh, what we did to the black people. You know what Cassius Clay said? He went and visited Africa. Unlike most of these armchair arrogant bastards, he went and visited Africa, and he got back to America. The first thing Muhammad Ali had to say to the news reporters when they asked him what he thought of Africa was, "Thank God my granddaddy got on that boat." That's how effed up life in Africa is. That being the descendant of a slave in a 21st century society is better than being a quote unquote free person living in Africa. In finding a primitive civilization and insisting that they should not be given any of the advanced science, technology, medicine, philosophy, and oh God forbid, the religion of our society is like finding a naked, feral child living out in the woods with the animals, looking at his deprived state and saying, oh, we can't disturb his lifestyle, and insisting that we all go off and leave him to live and die in his filth in the wilderness. Oh, what a horrible thing to say about other cultures. If these other cultures are so fantastic, why are you so scared of them evaporating in a puff of smoke when meet any other alternative? That's what they're scared of. They're scared that these people who they want to put on display in a museum, they're scared to death that these people, when given a choice between their primitive uh, 14th century civilization and a modern 21st century Judeo-Christian Western one, that they will choose our culture over the one that they currently live in. That's why I hate McDonald's so much, because it pisses them off. Nothing pisses off a liberal more than knowing that millions of people around the world are being well fed. Nothing pisses them off more than seeing some little Boonga tribeman deciding to buy a cheeseburger. Because it means it means that they'll have to. Oh my gosh, they can make choices for themselves. We'll have to start treating them like people instead of like pets or zoo animals. I hate that. I hate that prime directive trope. I hate it with a passion, because it's the product of the most wretched racist thing right out of Hollywood. I'm sorry, that gets me wound up. And it just makes my skin crawl. These people, they believe the most bigoted, racist, obscenely cruel things, and they sit around there patting themselves on the back for how loving and enlightened and progressive and thoughtful and compassionate it makes them. It's a kind of philosophy that lets sociopaths drown babies with a smile. Oh, we're being so compassionate. They would leave the less advanced people of the world to starve and freeze and rot to death from disease, rather than have them polluted with knowledge and progress and enlightenment. It's just it draws out a streak of anger in me that I can't begin to express. Uh, it's just as racist as anything that came out of the mouth of the fascists and communist collectives of the Third Reich. Is what they intended to do. Oh, we'll make this world a beautiful utopia for the, and we'll take good care of those primitive subhuman people too. No idea what Cumerian is. Let's see here. Recent. Uh, this is what it's the absolute worst kind of racism. Now, President Bush used to refer to as the soft racism of lowered expectations. That's more of a, you might argue that it's more of a social-political thing than a scientific thing. But at a certain point, those two aspects cross over because uh, many of the socio-political philosophies that progressives cling to requires that they maintain a willful ignorance of recorded data, of known history, of and even of observed scientific fact. Politics and social issues are not just a matter of philosophical belief; they're a matter of observed, objective fact. And when you are composing a worldview, a philosophy, if you ignore the facts, the thing you're building will fall apart. Tired, feeling a little spacey from I don't know, the 6 different. Hmm. This thing grinding at me. I feel a little bit ground from either end here. Just let's see. Uh, Feeling a little stuck in neutral at the moment. Pretty tuckered and feeling a little stressed. Feeling a lot stressed. That's nothing new. Mm.
It's amazing how you get a good marathon going, but once it's done, you're done. Energy, irate energy only goes so far. Now, mm, man, I'm sorry. It's just I go through this every night. I just get up, rev roaring, ready to go, and then it's like you're half there and your fuel tank empty. People are asking. It's mm, this is a little disturbing. I'm sitting here trying to, and every time I start to think of something to say, I realize that I haven't said it. I've just thought it. Okay, this is the usual tank out period. For those who are just tuning in, I try and do these progresses. I end up doing them late in the afternoon. Well, the thing of it is after well, I will reach the tank out point. It's like I just basically out of energy, and it's hard to get across. It's hard to realize that when you stopped talking and started just quietly thinking to yourself. That's the death knell of any radio program. Is like a radio time. And, and there we go again. It's rather disturbing. I will sit here and think I've been talking for 5 minutes and realize that I haven't opened my mouth. We've seen many things over the years. We've seen when you go out to help out. Mm, it's just Okay, I can't. Did it again. I've drifted off again and again and again and again and again. And again. Well, hopefully I'll break out of this dozing off phase in a couple more minutes. Oh, this is something I go through all the time. I've got sleep. I've got a lot of physical issues. Among them, sleep apnea, which in turn affects my sleep cycle. I've been having to sleep at little 2, 3, 4 hour intervals. Uh, like I was saying, I have a lot of physical problems. It leads to sleep apnea, among other things, and it means a constant disruption of my sleep. I usually get, I have to get my sleep in. I end up getting my sleep in like 3 or 4 hour lot. Sometimes not even that, just a nap for about a half hour, and then I'll pop up and I'll go back to doing what I was doing. But it's mm, mm, you know, and without consequently, I spend much of my time. If you just sit still, if you just sit still for 15 minutes, uh, you will go straight to sleep. All those people talking about tossing and turning in bed, not going to sleep for all that long. There was the reason they weren't. Now the always plan for a bigger show than I always plan for the show, but I never follow through on so many of them. Of course, I saw a map recently that showed just how much of United States territory is owned by the federal government. The only thing the federal government is constitutionally allowed to own is enough land for things like military for harbors, munitions, uh, ammo dumps. Uh, Uh, just let me take a breather. Okay. Are there topics that you all want to talk about? Anything that you want to talk about? Anyone that you want to question? You want to think about? You want to debate? Come on, give me some love. Give me some feedback here. I can't seem to stay awake long enough to say anything. Goodness. Turn up the heat a little bit here. Just some Cheetos. Give me some Cheetos. Actually, cheese balls. Brown. Okay, I will be back in a minute. I'll run to the restroom. Be right back. And I'm back. What inspired me to be a cartoonist? Here's one for you. Hmm. What inspired me to be a cartoonist? Truthfully, laziness. I'll explain that in a minute. Got a mouthful of chocolate. What I mean by that is, when I was a little boy, I was a bookaholic. I was a reader. I loved books. The library was like a trip to the candy store for me. I love fiction, especially science fiction. I love fantasy. Just love to read. But I wanted to write too. But being very young and a very little brain, I was not a very good writer, and that frustrated me. And it frustrated me that it took so many hundreds of thousands of words to describe something that happened. And then I discovered the idea that, hey, I could draw what happened. And so I started drawing comics, illustrating the stories I wanted to tell. And I realized, my goodness, I've got, you know, uh, you know, I've got a knack for this, and I could tell so much more, so much better with a picture than I could with my words back then. And that got me into it. In fact, my interest was unusual enough that got the interest of my teachers, counselors, and such. And they tried to help me along by introducing me to other people that they introduced me to a cartoonist who worked for a teacher's publication. I got to meet him and got to talk to him, and he sent me samples of his work to show what kind of thing he did. And well, it just basically snowballed. Art was always one of my favorite classes as well, so that added into it. Because the difference between an art class, and regular class, uh, with a regular school class, um, with a regular class like math or history, focuses on getting things right, getting things correct, getting it right, doing it right, answering, in just the right way for the teacher to, give you an A. And in art class, I discovered that the difference between getting things right and doing things good. if you can understand what I'm saying, is that even though there was no right way to do art, that there was a way to do it better, that you could do good art. Cartooning is one of the earliest. When people take an interest in drawing, especially children, especially at a very young age. Cartooning is one of the very first steps they take in it. It's because it's that middle ground between iconography and actual artistic rendering. Uh, you go from using lines to write words or symbols to making images. And with cartooning, it's possible to do very simple, to illustrate a concept with very simple lines, and there are very simple rules to it. Like here, here. Let me pull up an example here. Just a quick thing here. Now, uh, you'll see these, on their notebooks and such. They draw like this. Let's see here. Looking for my, so I dropped it. And then at that radical point where the kid realizes that nah, 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 nah. And the guy goes, "Oh my gosh, I just drew Kilroy." Just very simple lines making an image, and that translates, and you suddenly realize, hey, I can, you know, suddenly it's like unlocking the grade school language of art. Uh, Here's one for you. Here's one for you here. You know what this one is? It's a man with a bow tie caught in an elevator door. Snake on roller skates. The early bird and a very strong worm. Now, the inside view of Napoleon's coat. 3 pigs in a fog. Okay. You get the point. And they realize that that they can draw the logos for their favorite rock band or all sorts of different smiley faces and stuff, and hearts and clovers and all those little holiday symbols and stuff, and it grows from there. Uh, what got me into art was the ability to tell a story. Picture worth a thousand words. I also got into finer art for quite some time. But in the end, it came down to my artwork is more iconic. I mean, by that is that I tend to draw. I tend to draw symbolic images much more really than I do, fine art. Big statement art, that kind of thing. I dabbled in everything. At one point I even tried making modern art and trying to shuck it off. Couldn't do it. There's an art to there's an art to modern art, but it's the art of the con arts, and I'm not very good at that. I just don't want to. Uh, it was silly of me. I was just a overgrown child who didn't know how things were done by adults, and I really couldn't make my way in those avenues.
It's enough to make you weep in frustration, really. Uh, that modern artists, it's so terrible because it comes down to fraud. It's you know you are evaluated on your ability to scam other people, to bullcrap them with absolute rubbish. They caught some highfalutin modern artists stealing artwork from online cartoonists and using it as t designs and reselling it as prints for thousands of dollars. Um, this was a couple of years back, so I don't know. Basically, plagiarize them. Let's see. Yeah, you got a lot of cartoonists here just ripping each other off too. But I don't think this is the story I was looking. this is not correct. Yes, I'm on reading film fiction stories, and I'm still commenting there. I still have an email address and all that. It's just I pulled all the stories there. I pulled all my stories from there because it's supposed to be for my convenience, not theirs. So does that sound selfish? I figure they'll eventually get around to finding a way to ban me from reading there, for commenting entirely. But they've not exactly, they've not exactly pulled up the milk of human kindness in my breast. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I do comment on the stories there still. I still read the stories there. I decided that if my stuff was going to generate traffic for anyone, it wasn't going to generate traffic for them anymore. Let's see. Uh, I'm not a very good conversationalist, I suppose. Too much of conversation runs on the belief, in the belief in opinions about everything. I don't run like that. I don't think like that. To my way of thinking, opinions are things you have about things like ice cream flavors. Opinions are, you either have, opinions are things you have about, musical tastes or ice cream flavors or whether pizza is better than cheeseburgers or crap like that. Uh, Opinions are also something that you have on everything else until the facts are in. After that, it either becomes the truth or it becomes an error. And too much of modern conversation, communication, and discourse revolves around the assumption that everything is merely a matter of opinion. And I can't work like that. I can't think like that. People, uh, uh, I believe that far fewer things are a matter of taste or opinion than most people agree with. Most people think, even conservative people tend to have things that say, "Oh, well, that's just a matter of opinion," and I cannot agree with that. And people will come up with topics on, oh, it doesn't really matter, and right to the bone, right to the bone. A part of me says, yes, it does. And people are always asking me to compromise, and to my way of thinking, as the old joke, a politician hears the word compromise and thinks that a problem has been fixed, that something has been fixed. But a military man hears the word compromised and knows that something has been broken. If I say 2 plus 2 equals 4 and you say 2 plus 2 equals 6, we have not fixed anything by compromising and saying 2 plus 2 equals 5. We have more than likely made things worse because people believe that a fatal error has been corrected. Well, let's consider that. From your perspective, the Jedi are kind of evil. That's kind of stupid. Well, let's consider the old order Jedi. Yeah, I got a kind of question. I don't think that they're chewing up the scenery evil. I mean, individually they go out and they try and do good deeds and and help people in need. But as an institution, yeah, they kind of sucked. They took children from their parents, inducted them into an ascetic order that believed that all emotion was evil, even love. That's pretty evil right there. These people are supposed to be one with the force, which is the way of nature in the universe. I hate to break it to you, but family, love, marriage, family, those are sort of the fundaments of life, the universe, and everything. But they create this ascetic order where even love is forbidden, and I'm like, oh dang, just George Lucas, you flew up your own rear end. Uh, and then they go out. Okay, let's see. They spy. Think about this. This should be terrifying to you. These people have mind control powers. These are not the droids you were looking for. And they spend all their time around elected officials. Whether or not they abuse the power, that represents something of an ethical compromise, to say the least. Not to mention a compromise, a major hole in national security. And they're not above doing things for the greater good, which includes poking their fingers into people's brains. Me, Dragon, I'm pretty sure I can draw a crying baby. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can draw that. Then there's the fact, okay, when they found out, you know, that little toad Yoda finds out. One of his Jedi comes to him and says, "I've got somebody I love. I've seen prophecies that she might die," and he says, "Well, rejoice." I'm like, because she's becoming one with the cosmos, and uh, you realize that you realize that effectively Anakin Skywalker joined the dark side because the Jedi convinced him they didn't give a rat's ass whether his wife lived or died. Basically he basically jumped the rail for better health care. What happens when his wife gets sick and all these robots standing around? She's in there in the middle of like super futuristic technology. She's just lost the will to live. We don't know what's wrong. Nice work there, R2D. R2D0. Meanwhile, the dark side is over there rebuilding a guy who's been crisped in lava from scratch. They apparently never heard of anything like Novocaine in the process, but yeah, I think he chose wisely when it comes to medical care. Uh, I would probably, the expanded universe. They have a faction that's called the Gray Jedi. They walk the middle road. There is no light side, there is no dark side. Uh, Now you think about it. One guy pointed this out. The Force. Okay, the dark side of the Force. They shoot lightning bolts at you. Non-lethal lightning bolts, might add. But the Jedi will alter your mind, which is more evil. And what do they do when they find out that a member of the opposing faction of their religion is in power? They don't call the rest. Oh, we found a Sith. They didn't have newspaper headlines. You know, pop out the next day. Commander of the Parliament turns out to be a member of death. They didn't do that. No, they rounded up the posse and went to execute him. Yeah, so yeah, I'd say that the Jedi Order is the old Jedi Order was very, very badly morally compromised. Yeah, let's face it, the George Lucas, no consideration of the consequences of. This is one of the things that most bulk sci-fi writers, they never fully consider the implications of the technology that they have created and all the applications thereof. Of course, you get some that turn their magic MacGuffin, their phlebotinum into the magical fix everything tool, but those are far rarer. Those are far rarer than the ones who write like Star Wars, where they have cloning technology, but they don't use it for medicine. Where they have all the they have all these uh, technological miracles, and they don't use them in the most trivial fashion possible. Yeah, the original Star Wars was a very straightforward good versus evil story. It had moral clarity. Evil guys over here blowing up planets to crush any dissent. Good guys destroy the planet destroyer. Bam, and that was it. Basic good versus evil. But when it came back, George Lucas, typical of most Hollywood, had flown up his own rear end, and the ethically mushy thinking of progressiveness just perforated his work. Well, Cartoon Glutton, considering the fact that they have the technology to clone a whole human being, fully intelligent, simpler things like cloning tissue, organs, and such. In fact, in the expanded universe, the Emperor Darth Sidious is, Palpatine is brought back because they cloned him and stuffed his Force Ghost into a new body. So it's, what made it expensive was the fact that the race was producing clones, producing and training and educating clones en masse from one man. Being able to brew up what they need in a vat, like growing an arm. Star Trek had the same problem. They would just, uh, uh, episode after episode, they'd find new paradigm-shattering technology at which would never be heard from ever again. Harry Potter, same problem. What was it? The third or fourth one? Prisoner of Azkaban. Time travel. Oh, good night, J.K. Rowling, you fool. They just messed up everything because of all the implications. I remember that was one of my favorite parts in Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. Uh, Dumbledore takes him aside and realizes the kid, Harry Potter is really busting his hump, learning something. He says, "Well, here's a time turner." And he goes, "What's this?" "It's a time turner." "What's a time turner?" "Oh, it's a thing for traveling back through time." And he freaks. And Harry he's standing there freaking, holding it just in his hands like he'd just been informed he was holding a primed atomic bomb. Right, no sense of scale, no sense of scale, uh, and no uh, no head for contemplating the secondary implications beyond the immediate of introducing a new fictional technology. This is why I spend so much time on, and this is what I spent so much time on in Quentin Quinn Space Ranger. The implications cloning technology, of replicator technology, of being able to scan somebody's brain and save their memories into a computer, the implications of artificial intelligence, the implications of faster than light travel. as I point out, you read my stories. Most authors treat treat faster than light travel as if it was like hopping on the bus and going downtown in their futuristic stories. It's supposed to be that common, but they forget that they've forgotten everything that Albert Einstein taught anyone. That temporal flow is relative. That there is a consider that there is a measurable difference in the flow of time between the surface of the Earth and close orbit. Bet you didn't know that. Think about this. It's literally measurable. It's measurable as time dilation, relativistic time dilation. The I've forgotten the word just skipped my brain. The phrase for it, the term. Um, GS. I can't remember the mapping system. You know OnStar. What I can't think of the word. The satellites that we use for what is the name of the term? GSI, CSI, PHS, OnStar, A, B, C, D, F, G, H. Can't think of it. This is embarrassing. GPS, right. The GPS satellites, each satellite in the GPS system has an onboard atomic clock. And they also have a computer on board that adjusts the clock by a few fractions of a second every single day. Because literally is traveling so fast that the clock on board the satellites is running either a little bit faster or a little bit slower than ones on the surface of the planet. Like, just like a handful of nanoseconds. I mean, small amount of time, but it is enough. It is enough that in 24 hours, your GPS, if they did not adjust it continually, the GPS would be off by several kilometers. Think about that. And that's just between the surface of the Earth and a satellite orbiting it. Now picture the temporal dilation between, say, the center of the galaxy and the outer rim. And that's not counting around black holes and neutron stars, or in other locations where various uh, stellar bodies are pulling at the fabric of time and space. Uh, Science fiction writers treat space and time, time space, as if it were a level parking lot. It's far from that. It may very well be that we'll discover some distant time that reaching the stars is a lot easier than we thought. It merely a matter, if you ever look at them, it would merely be a matter of following the currents of time and space. That the universe might be perforated with shortcuts and fast tracks and express lanes. and currents, time space that run all through it. That's just wild speculation on my part, of course, obviously. But, uh, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Uh,
stomach starts to act up a little bit. Oh, like I was saying. Now, there are probably shortcuts all through time space, all throughout the universe, that we are just lack the perspective to see. Now, let me give you an idea here. Images. Come on, stop that stupid thing. Let's see, air traffic worldwide. Okay, images. Now, here, let me pull this here. I should be here. View image. Now, take a look at this map. This is the map of air traffic around the world. You know, jetliners and such. Now, consider this. Look at how many of these air routes take these big long arcs. Isn't that strange looking? Now, you figure the shortest distance, you know, we've all known since we were in grade school, shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So why isn't, you know, this spot in New York goes straight to London in a straight line? Or from here to Japan. Look at this huge arc. It looks like you're going thousands of miles out of your way. Well, in order to understand that, you have to understand that these traffic routes are not over a flat world. You see here, they are taking the shortest route possible because they have to make they taken a route over the globe. It looks like a big curved arc on a flat map. And I think that when it comes to interstellar travel, you know, interstellar or even intergalactic travel, is that we are looking at the world. We are not, just as somebody looking at this map and say these routes are too long, you know, they go over here, and they're seeing a three-dimensional world on a two-dimensional map. I think that our scientists are seeing a four-dimensional universe and plotting it out on a three-dimensional star chart. And more importantly, let's see here. Here's something else here. Now, here's another thing. Now, let's see here. Now, most of the historians, for the biggest amount of time, they insisted they looked at the map. They looked at the world map and said, there's no way that people from this side of the world travel to this side of the world because there's a great big huge ocean in between. And there's no way that these people have ever visited these people, visit these people, visit these people. Now, because of the oceans. Now, that again is a shortcoming in their thinking. Because now there was a scientist by the name of Thor Heyerdahl, an archaeologist, anthropologist, who believed and had some very, he had mountains of evidence that the original settlers on the Easter Islands, way out here in the ocean, the islands out here, the Polynesian Islands, actually came from South America, the west coast of South America. There were corresponding legends, in fact. The people
people of South America spoke of a legendary king named Tiki who sailed into the setting sun with all his followers. And the people on these islands, these little bitty islands way out here, spoke of a legendary king, Tiki, who sailed out of the rising sun with all his followers. And everybody said there's no way they could have done that. All they had was these, huge log rafts back then to sail. And to prove that it was feasible, that his theory was feasible, Thor hired a crew of men, and they went out and built one of these huge balsa log rafts and sailed from South America all the way out to the Polynesian Islands. And it was the stuff of legend. I mean, I've read the book. You should read it, The Kon-Tiki. It's a great read. It's fascinating the things that they learned. They discovered a couple of extinct species while they were out there. No lie. And the things they learned radically changed people's perspective. Well, the thing is that he also found proof that South America on the East Coast had been settled by people, possibly from Africa, maybe even Egypt. Again, they built a ship called the Ra. It was basically a papyrus boat. They had to do it twice. The first time they didn't quite make it all because of a mistake they made in the design of the boat. And they were about 2/3 of the way when they had to be rescued. But they went back, built it right, and made it all the way to South America. Now, the difference is that while everybody else was looking at the map, these oceans as big barriers, he was looking at them as conveyor belts. You see, these tidal currents, look at that. There is a major ocean current that goes, up the coast of South America and out to these islands way out here, and then swings back. There's another one. There's another one that goes from Egypt down to South America, and all that is that, and there is evidence that the ancient civilizations used these currents for oceanic voyages. There are island tribes. They navigate from they make maps out of reeds and bamboo and leaves and stuff that chart out all the currents and tides. And they hop and they'll ride out to these and they'll ride them out to the other islands and back and forth between them. They don't, just in their little island archipelago. So this is not beyond the capacity of it. And one of the things I've known about the universe, as above, so below. There are patterns that repeat throughout God's universe. You could look at a picture side by side. The picture of a dividing cell looks almost the same as the picture of an exploding star. You can look. There's one that's side by side. It shows a map of the local supercluster, and right next to it is a microscope photograph of a single neuron in the brain, and the similarity is absolutely frightening. We have come to understand that our world is dynamic, that it has currents and tides and winds and trade winds and all these forces in constant motion. We are very poor at utilizing them. Our ancestors were much better at it. They knew how to, as you might say, go with the flow. But we do know that our Earth is full of all these dynamic forces, and what Einstein taught us, what we learned from Einstein's theory of relativity, is just the first inkling of understanding that the universe out beyond our world has tides and currents and dangerous shoals, and that it is more than just heaps and heaps and heaps of empty dead space with little stars sprinkled here and there in it. We may be sitting right next to, I think it perfectly feasible that we might be sitting in our planet right next to the equivalent of an intergalactic superhighway or a conveyor belt that could carry humanity out to the stars and not even know it because we are still fixated on our rigid flat Earth image of the universe. This is another thing that's bothered me. Uh, this is another example of the forces that scientific facts that people do not take into account when they write. I've read so many stories where you know you know again in film fiction. Okay, they I've read several stories where where Celestia comes to our world and moves the sun around. I've seen stories where, in Equestria, she doesn't move the sun; she rotates the planet, and so on and so forth, and on and on and on and on. And let's put it this way: if it doesn't match what we've seen, uh, the Earth. Let me put it this way: the Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles an hour. That's just rotational. As I remember, it's about 1,000 miles an hour. So, what do you think would happen if the Earth's rotation was stopped? As they've done in the in My Little Pony, they've shown the sun going up, stopping, and going back down, going up, going down, going up, going down. As a joke. But if that were to happen for real, if the sun was to start going and then just stop dead in the sky, that would mean that the Earth had stopped rotating. You realize that even if you were capable of making the entire planet stop rotating, the air would not. If you stopped the Earth rotating right now, life would be scoured from the surface of the planet instantly because the entire planet would suddenly be ripped by 1,000-mile-an-hour winds as the planet stopped rotating and the atmosphere kept going. Not to mention everything on the planet would suddenly lurch to the left or to the right at 1,000 miles an hour. Skyscrapers suddenly uprooting themselves and hurtling through the air, that kind of thing. And not to mention the oceans slopping over their out of their beds over the shoreline. It would just literally scrub life off the planet in the ultimate hurricane from hell. So it's safe to say that no, you know, in a realistic model, Celestia is not, turning the world around and stopping it and turning it the other way. No. Yeah. Well, the problem is that if you've reached a point where you can, either way, you would, the inertia. I think you mean inertia, Amiga Dragon. Either way, the strain on the planet would be massive. Even if only 1% of the force involved slipped your grasp, it would cause catastrophes worldwide. Yeah, this is part of the actually this is part of the if you've read the great if you've read Alicornundrum, this is part of the reason. This is how part of the design, the model I made for their world is that originally their planet was, a typical Earth-type planet orbiting a star. They discovered that the star was about to go supernova, and so with a massive engineering project, they converted uh, the torque of the rotating planet and the kinetic energy of the moon. It basically they took the kinetic energy out of the Earth's rotation and out of the moon's orbit, and used it and turned it into thrust, launching the planet away from the sun. Which is why their Earth does not rotate. They have two small, uh, an artificial sun and an artificial moon that orbit it, and they have dozens of other, for lack of any magitech machinery that keeps the tides turning, uh, and the current of the ocean flowing. You can imagine what would happen to the ecosystem of the oceans if the tides and the currents stopped. It would just die out. It'd be like a big old bowl of dead sea monkeys. Uh, that's the big idea stuff. I tend to get into big idea type stuff like that. Uh,
text to this. Okay. feet are hurting. I can't even sit down without my feet hurting. Jeez. Let's see. Oh, I've been leaving. Now, let's see here. Turn this off here. Let's see what I'm doing here. Just Oh boy. Oh, good grief. Doggone, this is the third time I've drawn that bubble. Oh goodness, yes, there have been sightings. Well, Loch Ness monster. There have been sightings of a Loch Ness monster, and creatures like Loch Ness monster all over the world for centuries. Uh, then there's look up Makila Mbembe for some interesting stuff. So, we've been spotting supposedly extinct creatures all over the world for many years. It should come as no surprise. The vast majority of the world is unexplored, to say nothing of the oceans. It should come as no surprise that many of the things that we thought were extinct or wiped out are living in one of the countless places where men never go. It's interesting how evolutionists refuse to believe that dinosaurs could still be walking there. It doesn't fit their model of the world. But yet, if we were to find every time we find a living fossil, an extinct species that should have been wiped out centuries ago, or thousand, or they say has been extinct for the coelacanth, the gempilis, there are multiple mammals and birds and God all knows what else. This suddenly, no problem. They have no problem with that. Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay, it is 9:30, and I am half asleep. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. We'll see you all tomorrow. Pick up where we left off. Uh, if you know anybody out there, those of you who make Patreon pledges, you might want to check your Patreon settings. I have had several of my Patreon patrons. Uh, they made a pledge, and when Patreon went to make the withdrawal, it bounced. Basically, $114 worth of pledges just never existed in the first place. Uh, so I'm just letting everybody know. Because they put in the wrong information or something, or didn't put in the right bank information, something like that. So you might want to check that if you do that. Oh man, if they find a triceratops, they're gonna crap their pants, and then they'll forget it was ever supposed to be extinct. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope had some entertainment value for y'all. I hope to see you again tomorrow. And if you feel like making a donation, just drop a little something in the hat. There is a donation button on my YouTube page. There's a donation button on my comics page, and there's a donation button on my YouTube page, right there up at the top in the banner. So if you get a chance, please. But and we'll see you all later. Thank you once again. You have yourselves a nice night. This is me signing off.